All right, we are live. What's up, everybody? This is Steven, joined by our guest Plini on our Q&A this week. Welcome.
Hello,
How's it going, man?
it's going great.
All right. Dan Davies says, have a good stream, boys."
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Dan.
Dan.
It's
What
nice.
makes a
He
good,
drops in.
what makes a
Yeah.
good stream?
What makes a good stream? I mean, I guess conversation, talking,
Okay.
interacting with people, I suppose. I don't know. I'm a noob at this anyway, so.
We just get here and say nothing, just look at
Yeah.
each other
Yeah.
awkwardly.
hmm I, I
Okay.
I I would pay money for that.
Yeah. I mean, you are. You're paying me, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome. So, I mean, I guess we'll go ahead and start off with for anybody who potentially might not know who you are, who's tuning into the stream, why don't you go ahead and give us a rundown of who you are, what you do, and maybe anything that you're currently working on that they might be interested.
Yeah. I am Plini. I'm a musician, I suppose, from Australia. Um, and I was the first archetype plugin person. I guess that's all the necessary details. I just pretty much finished an album, but there's still a little bit of stuff that I need to tweak before it's out of my hands. And then I will be thinking about what to do with my life. And that's pretty much where I'm at. And that's why I'm happy to do a stream.
Happy to do a stream. Yes. Oh my God. So Uncle John says that your hair is better than ever and your plugin is the best.
Thank you. Yeah,
He's
I've
got.
going on 28 years of bed hair. So,
Oh man. Well, that's actually something that you said in there is kind of an interesting thing. Is that how does it feel to be the first archetype, and then how was your experience working with Neural DSP? Because I know people are interested on to get any sort of the behind the scenes stuff.
um, yeah. So I met Doug, who I guess people would know or should know as the founder of Neural, at a NAM show a few years ago when he was doing Dark Glass. And we just kind of, I guess, became friends because I mean, I don't play bass, but I respected Dark Glass. And I just knew that he did really cool stuff. And then he started Neural, which I hadn't checked out much. And then one day in 2018, I was on tour somewhere in the middle of France, and he called me to talk about doing a plugin. And at this point, I think maybe there was one Fortin plugin, but it definitely wasn't like a hugely reputable guitar sim company. But I think just because of how much I respected Doug for like assuming anything he does would be amazing. Um, and I also don't typically like endorsements or collaborations, but I was won over by the idea. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then it turned out to be the best guitar plugin of all time.
Agreed. It's definitely a fan favorite in the Facebook groups for sure. Um,
It's kind
so
of
it was.
weird.
Go ahead.
I mean, it was just so smooth. Like it just, nothing that could have been bad happened. Like everything sounded amazing. It looked amazing. I was just like, oh yeah, like this is being achieved.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that whatever science voodoo magic is going on at the Neural DSP headquarters, they are, I feel, on the forefront of making the best guitar plugins and bass plugins ever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So it was definitely Doug's character and his determination to make the best products that kind of sold you on the collaboration between the two of you.
Yeah. And I guess like Simon, who plays bass with me, has known Doug probably longer and better through Dark Glass. And so he had a pretty strong endorsement for like anything this guy does is sick. And that was my impression too. But yeah, and I guess that's kind of generally how I choose to do things. It's just if I know someone and they're nice and good at something, and it's probably going to be a fun time.
Right, right. I mean, I feel like that's sort of a staple of your work ethic, isn't it? It's just kind of like make good stuff with good people, and everything else will sort itself out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Let's see. TJ asks, what sort of sounds and vibes are we going to witness on the new album coming up?
We'll have to wait. I guess that's not good PR.
I mean, you could always just say
Oh,
soon and then just let
yeah.
everybody hang.
Oh, mix of stuff. It's definitely got some of the most like out there music that I've done, which doesn't necessarily mean it's that out there in terms of what's possible, but yeah, there's some weird shit. It's quite a lot of weird shit. There's some pleasant shit. And yeah, so currently I'm happy with it.
That's cool. Any release date for that? This is me asking personally.
So it's mixing will start soon. I want to get it out this year, but if it takes longer than we think to mix it to perfection, then
Mhm.
it doesn't really matter to me.
Well, that actually kind of segues into something I'm kind of interested in as well, is how has the current COVID situation kind of affected your work life between, you and Simon, your drummer, like how's that impacted or has it?
I guess in the beginning it was almost a blessing because it perfectly cleared my schedule to finish the album. Right now, I would be in California at the Petrucci Guitar Camp, so I guess that's a bummer.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, all the touring plans are totally off, and who knows? So it's kind of weird because all the activities I would conventionally want to do around releasing an album are now nothing.
Hmm.
Um, but I guess because so much of what I do is just making music, it hasn't been too difficult to adapt yet. But yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of not worth being pessimistic because everyone's in the same boat. So,
I agree. I agree. But like, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
and actually, I guess a sign of my attitude is that I was asking you about how to do streaming because that's, I mean, I don't even like these sorts of things typically. But now that I'm curious about it, yeah, so we'll see what happens.
No, it's definitely a lot of fun for anybody who's interested. I usually do like a 10-15 minute like sound check, get everything all settled beforehand. So we were talking and maybe might see some live streams from Plini pretty soon.
Maybe.
Maybe we'll see. To be announced, to be determined. Let's see. Felipe asks, "Hey Pliny, how do you approach writing a new song? Do you sit down with the intention to capture an emotion, noodle randomly until something hits you, etc.? Thanks."
Yeah, most of the time it's random. I just set time aside to make music and see what happens. Most of the time, music is not made. But yeah, eventually coming across anything that sounds interesting and just going from there. Like sometimes it's because it feels like it has an emotion. Sometimes it's a cool sound or something like a rhythm. Yeah, it's a pretty inexplicable spark thing.
Do you kind of just wait till you find something that sort of moves you or catches you in a certain way?
Yeah, and I think part of it is like making time to be there to see if it happens, um, and then a lot of it's just left up to chance. But I guess what you listen to and what you do the rest of the time probably has some sort of influence on like the shit that can form.
Let's see. I lost the question in the chat, but somebody was asking about what do you think about instrumental progressive guitarists coming up today, and I'll add on to that. Who out there do you think is pushing the envelope in a good way that you say may not be getting the right attention, or maybe is on the up and coming?
Well, my number one underrated pick of the world is Jakub Jatecki, or Jacob Zaiteki, depending how you pronounce Polish. Um, yeah, he's always been a huge inspiration for me, and he's always doing something that I've never thought of doing, like 2 years in advance.
Hmm.
Um, there's this guy, I think it's Josh Della Victoria. I don't know if that's his name or like that's me trying to remember half an Instagram name and half a real name.
Right.
He's like ridiculously sick guitarist. I guess he hasn't put out that much music, but I think his project is with Matt Gaska on drums. And yeah, he's sick. Looking forward
Yeah.
to hearing more from him.
Matt's pretty good at the drums.
He's
He's
all
all
right.
right. He's
Yeah,
picked it up once or twice, right?
yeah, yeah. It's a good hobby for him. Um, Another guy, Rupam, he was the Surrealist and he's just changed his name to Dark, I think.
Hmm.
Um, you would know of him, I guess.
I
He
think
does
so.
crazy, like, I don't know what it's called, but where you pick harmonics and it sounds like a harp.
Oh yeah, the harp harmonics. I think they're
Like, that
called.
makes sense, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Um, yeah, he does. I mean, I've seen him do stuff like that, lots of crazy polyrhythmic chordal stuff. He's just doing some really interesting experimental sort of things that aren't conventional, like here's a fusion lick played faster.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. That's awesome. I always love giving like the people who need attention that attention. Um,
Yeah, I think this may be coming from my position of privilege having lots of followers already, but I feel like all the people that are making really interesting music will be recognized for it like pretty soon. It's just a case of doing it for a little longer. Because that's like all my friends that I really look up to who started out in the same place as me are all kind of known now just from making music. So yeah.
do you think that that's from anything specific as far as the personality goes, the work just pays off in the end, or personal marketing?
I mean, yeah, the personal marketing helps because I guess at the end of the day, people are suckers for good marketing. um, and yeah, I guess if you're unbelievably talented but never make a video, then it's going to be hard for people to recognize you for it.
Right, right,
But I think as far as like the people who are, to me, not doing anything interesting but have really good marketing, and then the people who are doing something really interesting and have no marketing, I feel like they're on a pretty level playing field at the end of the day. And
right.
it's kind of just doing a little bit extra either in marketing or in interestingness that kind
Hmm.
of works.
Awesome, awesome. So Luca Lazari asks, what do you think about live shows abroad in the future when borders and stuff will be open? They'll be doable, but still risky. Do you have any plans at all currently? And this is me adding to the question, but do you have any plans currently to start even broaching the subject of touring again?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a tour booked. I won't say when or where, but I kind of I don't have much faith in it happening. And I
Hmm.
also feel like considering how poorly most cities and countries are doing to like, I guess the simple thing is if everyone had done a good lockdown, we'd all be out and about. But I guess it's human nature to be like, oh, it's fine if I just like do this. So yeah, I don't see it being normal for quite a while. Um,
Hmm.
and I don't think my my desire to play a show is more important than the very small chance that someone spreads a disease and someone dies. Like I think I'd feel reasonably bad about that. So I'm just gonna kind of wait and see, and like when it's
So that begs the question: what is defined unreasonably bad about it?
yeah.
Like, no, I totally agree. I think some people are not looking necessarily at the bigger picture when it comes to the current situation. I also think it's difficult as well, since this is, described as a black swan event where it's like, this is not going to happen for another like 150, 200 years. Like this is not something that we'll ever see in our lifetime again. Uh, and it's very, very it's difficult for us as human beings to see that far into the future or see like what the broad strokes will have. I mean, like I want to say the California set in motion the stay-at-home order, and my girlfriend and we bought like a bunch of food. We stocked up. We're hanging out in our apartment for like a couple of weeks, and we're like, okay, well, we got to go to the grocery store because we got to get food. And we were like holding out for as long as we could, and then we drive to the grocery store, and we're driving past parks, and like people are running, no masks, like just completely normal. And I'm like,
Yeah,
what is, what's happening right now? So,
yeah, yeah. I think around like April or May is the most I've ever seen anyone be that enthusiastic to exercise outside.
I agree. I agree.
Um, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'd love to play a show, but I'm not in a hurry to do it if it's not going to be the same like carefree event that it used to be.
That's pretty fair. But I mean, I think that that's where the live streaming is gonna come into play. I strongly believe that we're starting to witness like the revolution of live streaming technology. Like I'm finding more and more programs and solutions to live streaming problems popping up more and more. Uh, and it's just born out of necessity, because you see that there are now like hundreds of concerts being held online,
Yeah.
just to kind of fulfill this new need for people to consume live music. And yeah, it's I don't know. I'm kind of gonna start leaning hard into this whole live streaming thing, and try to address it as much as I can while the getting's good, I suppose.
And teach me.
I'll help, dude. I mean, I'm here to help, man. That's why I'm here. Let's see. Let's look to the questions. Randy Epp asks, where are you finding the most inspiration nowadays?
Um, Good question. Walking, I suppose. I've been walking for like 2 or 3 hours a day, just listening to music and podcasts and shit. And I suppose that'd be it. Um, yeah, like I'm really excited to make more music, but I feel like it's too soon because my current ability and knowledge is where it was when I just made this album. So I need to like learn and think more.
Hmm.
So yeah, trying to listen to different music and find new things that I don't understand and try and understand them and turn them into music. Um, but yeah, I suppose walking is the source of inspiration.
I like that. I like that. Health conscious. Um, Eric Feldman asks, what are the specific things you look for when dialing in an edge of breakup tone?
Um, Probably chords. Like if it'll sound clean for one note, but you get that, I don't know what it's called. I guess the breakup sound. If you play two notes, it suddenly sounds crunchier, and if you play a full chord, it kind of rings. Yeah, I suppose that would be it. I'm like notoriously bad at using a volume knob. Like if I my tone is a full volume knob tone at all times. So if it's going to be like a crunchy breakup sort of thing, that's
Hmm.
all coming from the amp and not from my ability to do this.
I feel the same way. I've always been on full volume. Like if I can automate the volume in my plugins, I'm
Oh,
more than
absolutely.
happy to do it.
Yeah.
More than happy to do it.
I was before MIDI was in the plugins, I was doing that for clinics. So I had a Logic session set up with a backing track and then my plugin, and I would just automate the gain knob on the amp. And it was kind of cool because I did it slowly, so it was like playing a chord and reaching out and turning the knob.
Nice, nice. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. GR Zorba, talk about what you see as your biggest weakness in songwriting. And I would add to it, and how do you address that?
Um, answer's probably in the question. I don't know how to write a song. I yeah, I mean, I love music with vocals and lyrics, and I have no clue how to do it. Um, I mean, I've got, I would say I have more weaknesses than strengths. Like I'm okay at one very particular thing that I've done a few times. Yeah, I'd love to figure out how to write a good song with a good vocalist and have it be as good, in my opinion, as like an instrumental guitar song. And I guess the place to start is to just do it. But I think from making so many instrumental songs where I hear an idea and then like fill in the gaps to be that, it's quite challenging to hear an idea and then imagine it for vocals instead. So
Mhm.
yeah, actually that's something I want to work on. That's something I should be doing right now, but I think I'm putting off because it's difficult and I'm scared that it won't be as great as I'd like.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Fine, not good enough.
uh, uh, I think let's see. I don't know. I've always been of a mindset that execution's always better. Like a done product is better than perfection because you'll never reach perfection.
Yeah.
But that you know that's just me. Um,
Yeah.
let's see. Casey asks, you mentioned listening to podcasts. What are some of your favorites?
The one I've listened to the most lately is Sam Harris's. Um, that's a lot of like fairly lots to think about type shit. There's another one, let me see. I forget the name. It's with a science guy, but he talks to all kinds of different people.
Star
Sean,
Talk, Neil deGrasse
Sean
Tyson.
Carroll's Mindscape.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like he's had some musicians on and kind of people from all different fields.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like any good Joe Rogan guest, I'll listen to, and that's yeah.
Nice. I always really enjoy Sam Harris's podcasts. They're always very very interesting. Do you have you checked out the Waking Up app from Sam?
I haven't, but I'd like to.
Hmm.
Um, I was a big fan of his a few years ago when I read a bunch of his books, and then rediscovered the podcast, and I was unsure that he ever enjoyed anything until I listened to a podcast he did with his wife, and he's like a totally different person because they've got their whole like married couple banter happening, which
Hmm.
he doesn't have in any other podcast. So I
He
was like,
he
oh, he's
he
actually,
ceases to sound like a robot when he's talking with his
yeah,
wife. Like it's.
yeah,
I know the exact episode you're talking about.
right.
Let's see. Epic Chicken asks, "What's the hardest part about going from a demo to a finished song?"
For me, putting in the time. I think that's what I noticed with this album is I had I thought I demoed a full album like months and months ago, and I was feeling all like, oh wow, I've done the album now. I just need to record it. And then when I got to actually recording it, I was like, wow, 3 of these minutes sucks. Um, like this rhythm is silly and not musical. And like this 5 minute demo that I had is really just a 1 minute decent idea that I need to actually write now. So then it took a few months to turn the demos into actual recordings.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so I guess that's something I'll be mindful of in the future, is that I'm probably further away from the finished thing than I think I am.
Now, is that something that like is it a perfectionist sort of mindset, or is it like where does that stem from? Because obviously you are a talented guitar player, but is it just personal preference, perfectionism, not thinking that people are going to accept the music as it is? Like where does that kind of stem from?
I guess it's like some sort of perfectionism, like a personal striving to always do newer and better.
Hmm.
So I guess if I had a demo where there's a cool idea and then I fleshed it out into 4 minutes or whatever by repeating it in a typical structure, It feels like, oh, that's a good song, but then I go back to it and it's like, oh, that's not actually doing anything that interesting in terms of songwriting or arrangement. Um,
Hmm.
and then, like, do I really need to have played that part 3 times, or is it only really worth hearing once? And then suddenly I've only got 1 minute. It's like, where's the song?
Right.
Um, yeah, I guess anytime I figure out a sort of formula for a song that can work, it becomes boring, and I have to find something to do with the idea that feels like it's new and exciting in some way.
Hmm. Hmm. I definitely understand that when you start to get bored with your own music, it just kind of is not acceptable anymore.
Yeah,
I totally get that.
I think
I
that's I think that's one of the most important things to never, like, if you keep thinking that everything you do is great straight away, I feel like you'll never push yourself
right.
further. So you just, yeah, you got to be unhappy all the time.
Just be the sad musician stereotype.
Yeah.
It's definitely been a very interesting experience because I would typically say that I fall under that category with my own music when it comes to the perfectionism and the wanting to always get it right. Uh, Having been working with Neural so long and at times having to come up with a song in a day, mix it the next, and then upload it the next, it's like having that such a short turnaround has definitely made um, accepting like what just comes from the moment a little easier
Yeah.
because like obviously a deadline is a deadline. Um, but I'm starting to apply that to my own music as well because it's like, well, you know what? Maybe this isn't such a bad idea. I'd rather just get the feedback from the people, and if I'm happy with it, then that's fine. And people have been generally pretty positive about the stuff that I've put up so far. But
Yeah.
yeah, trying to write a song that's like a minute long in a couple of days and then just call it good and then like never come back to it afterwards. It's a really interesting writing exercise.
Yeah.
Colton asks, did you find yourself trying to sound like other guitarists when you started writing? How did you go about developing your own sound in your writing as time went on?
Absolutely, and I still am. When I started, it was like trying to be Steve Vai and John Petrucci and Ingve and Joe Satriani. Um, and I think that in ways as simple as like I want their gear, I want to learn their songs. Um, and when I started writing music, and if I was about to play a melody or something, then I guess I would play it in the style of one of those guitarists or a combination of those guitarists. And then the more I did it, I guess I started to find ways of playing certain things from certain players that I liked more or less. So maybe like I would bend like Joe Satriani, but phrase like John Petrucci or something. And so that you can probably still hear those because it's only two things combined, but then you add like the tone of someone else and like a scale pattern from someone else, and then like the where you got it from gets a little bit more blurred. So I
Mm.
guess over the years, and then I've like thrown in heaps of Guthrie Govan and lately a lot of Tim Miller. Um, but I guess for Tim Miller, it's like a tone and hand thing because I have no idea what the fuck he's ever doing in terms of note choice. So I'm like trying to apply stealing his hand tone to like a Guthrie style melody over a Dream Theater style part with like a periphery style drummer. And so that, I guess, if you mix it all together enough, you start to lose track of what's coming from where, and that sounds like the person.
Right. And the the listener's interpretation also does count as well because there are times when I've written stuff and people are like, "Oh, that sounds very like Devin Townsend." I was like, and I'm kind of like,
Yeah,
I that wasn't even in my mind when I wrote it, but that's
yeah,
awesome. Um, Yeah, so like an amalgamation of influences and applying different techniques to different aspects of your playing. I think that's a pretty
Yeah.
good answer. Yeah.
And I think the whole learning process is just kind of that finding stuff you like, and it can come from anywhere, and you just add it to your vocabulary.
Agreed. Agreed. Let's see. More questions. So Luke Hemming asks, how do you like the new Strandberg pickups and neck through model? Is there anything that you specifically want to talk about with the Strandberg that you play on?
Sick. um, yeah, the neck through is the best guitar I've ever had, and the new pickups are the best pickups I've ever had, and that's more or less all that I think I need to say.
Hmm.
I think there's going to be more news about all that soon, and I'll be making videos and examples and that sort of thing. Um, but yeah, it's kind of same thing as Neural. It's just nice to work with people who are continually doing better than the best.
Agreed. Yeah, the Strandberg guys sent me the one of their classic sixes with the it's the classic version of the pickups that they're working on, and it's amazing. Um, let's see. So Sanivus asks, "What's your process in terms of programming demo drums, and how much do you expect Chris to follow them versus adding his own stuff?"
um, with the last songs we made, I would definitely not have expected him to follow it at all because I programmed pure garbage. Um, typically, yeah, it depends. Like when I first started making music, I was programming drums that would stay in the song. And then as I've started to work with drummers, I've done less of that to the point where, like, because I spent the last 2 or so years touring with Chris and knowing him as a person and a drummer,
Hmm.
I felt like I could get away with almost insulting programming and letting him know what to do. And that worked out really well. Um, to the point where there's a song that I had recorded totally in 4/4 to a 4/4 click. And he was like, "What the fuck is this?" And actually wrote it out. And the section was in 19/8. And it was a combination of 3 bars of 9/16 and one 11/16. And so after he did that, he was like, "Oh, now this makes sense, and I can actually play musical drums to it." Um, so yeah, I guess I've relied or got to the point of abusing the abilities of a good drummer. Um,
Well, I think there's also something to be said about relying on other people's expertise.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and like in that section, he brought some feels and ideas to it that I never would have thought of because I wasn't even thinking about it in like with the right concept of time. Um, what was the question? How do you go about programming drums?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was it.
okay, cool.
Let's see. Chris Byron asks, in Electric Sunrise around 2 minutes and 30 seconds, did you track string noise or an acoustic guitar to get the really wide sound?
Where is that in this? Yeah, probably. That would be an acoustic guitar. A lot of that album, I recorded acoustic guitar playing a lot of the riffs and blended that in, um, which is kind of. I got that from John Petrucci and also this guy, Martin Miller. I don't know if you know him. He's like a sick, I think he plays Ibanez fusion guitarist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, about 10 years ago or something, like we got to know each other on John Petrucci's forum, and he would post awesome solo videos where he would blend in the microphone of the dry electric guitar with like the direct amp sim. So that sound, plus I saw in like a making of a Dream Theater album thing, John Petrucci was tracking an acoustic guitar with an electric guitar, um, distorted tone, blending them. So I stole it from them and I do it all the time. So to answer the question, yes.
Awesome. Let's see. Facundo is asking for tips for going from an intermediate level to your level of proficiency on the instrument. Practiced some of your runs for months, but just can't reach the speed.
I don't know, because I see myself as being like beginner to intermediate in a different, I guess, amongst a different group of people.
Yeah,
Um, like you know Stephen Taranto probably.
I do. Yes.
So that's yeah. And he, I'm sure he probably doesn't see himself as advanced compared to other people that he likes. So
It,
I
it,
guess
it's
it's a matter of perspective.
it's all relative.
Yeah. I definitely I'm not good at and I don't have much interest in practicing technically.
Hmm.
I guess most of that progress comes from recording and trying to play things that I haven't played before, which usually means they're difficult. So I'll have to sit and try and record it bit by bit for hours and then have to learn to play it live. And then I'm forced to play it 100 times and then it's suddenly less scary. But yeah, it's very incremental. And I guess the way that I've found to do it that's not painful is to have it be part of some greater goal, like recording a song or playing a performance where people don't boo you for sucking.
Nice. Epic Guy asks, you mentioned drawing inspiration from walking. What was the inspiration or story behind your song Paper Moon?
Oh, who knows? The the first riff in that song was just a riff that I had discarded from another song. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. I'll try and turn it into a song. Um, that song was kind of easy because it was the last song on an EP, which was part of a trilogy, which was like meant to be a concept thing. So I was referencing melodies from previous songs.
Hmm.
And because that was the last one and I was doing it in a total like Dream Theater epic mindset, um, pretty much the whole second half of the song is like how many melodies and ideas from previous songs can I all throw together in a row? So it kind of wrote itself like that. Um, and then in terms of structure, it's pretty simple. It's got like a big loud beginning and then a mellow middle bit and then a bigger and louder ending. Um, so I guess in like the sort of overall ideas, a lot of it didn't was sort of like predetermined before any notes had to happen, and then it was just like filling it in with actual music. Um, yeah, so I guess the inspiration was kind of just the concept of oh, I'm going to write a really long song that references a bunch of other songs. Um, well, let's do that now.
That's cool. That's really cool. Kian Hushmand. What's up, dude? He says, what was the turning point where you decided to stop architecture and pursue music full time? That's a great question.
I graduated, and as I was doing my last semester, I was working part time in an architecture office. And as the end of the semester was getting closer and I was needing more and more time to focus on the project, um, I kind of just started going less and less to work. And I kind of just ghosted the place. And I think I still have the key. Like I just phased myself out. Oh, I can't come in this week. Oh, I can't come in this week. Merry Christmas. And then I just never returned. Um, and then this is actually around the time that I was finishing the EP that Paper Moon's on. So that was the last EP in the trilogy, which felt like when I finished it, I might have accomplished something. And then I would have had enough music to play a live set. So I thought, I want to play live because I've never done it before. And like, I seem to have some fans on the internet. Maybe they'd come to a show. So the first couple of months of the year after I graduated, I just spent on like putting together a set and learning to play guitar, standing up, and finding a band and stuff. And then played a show and then just said yes to like every other opportunity that came from that, which was like playing a festival in the UK and then going to Japan and then lots of Australian shows. Um, yeah, so I guess it was a I was I kind of could see what working in architecture would be like, and so I thought I'd give music a go, and I'm still giving it a go.
I understand that turning point. Was it something that was kind of like a gradual decision, like you started experiencing more of the music side of it and enjoyed it and thought, well, maybe I could just kind of keep doing that on the side, and then that became more and more of a part of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was putting out some music while I was studying, and at first it was like, oh, cool, like I put this on Bandcamp and like some people buy it, so that's cool pocket money. Um, and then, wow, so many people like this that I can make 50 CDs and like actually sell a physical CD and mail it to people. And so it just kept being like these incremental things that I never expected to be able to do, just building up to a point. Yeah. And then I tried it and it was so far so good.
And and you've been doing it ever since. How long ago was that, by the way?
So that was like, I graduated end of 2014, played the first show in May 2015. Yeah, 5 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
5 years and not and no real job.
Yeah.
I feel similarly, you know. I lost my job like 3 years ago, I think, and I've been happier ever since.
What were you doing?
Uh, I was working at a little mom and pop guitar shop. You know, I was like the manager. I was making like not a lot of money at all, just because it's like a small shop, and you know, storefronts. Really wasn't doing so well. So the store closed, and then I decided at that point, it's like I'm gonna give this audio thing the best shot that I can, and now I'm here. So I made the right decision, I feel.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Facundo asks, does your composing come from theory, improvising, relying on certain arpeggio scale shapes, going orally sound by sound? Thanks for being an inspiration, he says.
Thank you. The answer is yes, all of the above. Um, I think it's typically sound first and then theory to kind of make it faster. I don't think theory's, I guess, like the theory exists in the form of I have heard music that has done it before. Um, and sometimes, I mean, eventually that leads to understanding it in like an actual theory way. Like if you listen to Green Day for 15 years and play guitar, you probably eventually notice that you keep playing like C, G, A, F.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess different people turn it into written theory slower or faster than others. Like I'm probably somewhere in the middle. Like I don't always know what I'm doing, but it's usually I know that it's something that I've heard somewhere else or I've done before in a certain way. And that just makes it faster to be like, if I play this chord after this chord, I know it's going to sound like this. Um,
Nice.
yeah,
So
that's
you say kind of feel and instinct, and the theory sort of supplements what your instincts are kind of telling you to write for.
yeah. And with some of the weirder stuff in terms of chords, I'm probably doing it in a slower way. Like I'll listen to a bunch of jazz music and try and steal things from it. And I have no idea that that might be something I would have learned if I went to jazz school for like 1 week. And instead it's taken me like years and years. But yeah, it's just the fun process.
Hungry Guitar Student asks, actually, there's two questions that are similarly phrased. Hungry Guitar Student asks, did you learn the recording process by practice, or did you study in that field? And Andy is asking, how did you start out with recording and production, audio IO, then etc.
In the very beginning, we had like cassette player, one of those, I think it was a 2 deck one. I might be making this up, um, with a little built-in microphone. So I'd put a tape in that, press record, play acoustic guitar into it, then put the tape, actually no, into it at hi-fi, and then play it back over the hi-fi, press record again on that one, and then just multi-track glorious, glorious guitar. So that was the very beginning, and then my family got a laptop, which eventually became a laptop that had GarageBand on it.
Hmm.
So I started recording acoustic guitar into the webcam mic, um, into GarageBand and putting distortion on it. And that was, I mean, that's definitely not quite up there with Neural DSP for tone, but
Everybody's got to start somewhere.
yeah. I guess it's funny that like it would be more expensive to do that than it would be to get a plugin from Neural DSP now, probably. What a world. Um,
Yeah. We're in
so
this golden age now.
yeah, there's really no excuse not to be amazing. Um, and then, so I started making like kind of real music in GarageBand and learning to program drums and add other instruments and stuff like that. And then kind of got to the point where I felt I'd hit the limit of GarageBand as software. So I got Logic and started exploring that. And that's kind of where that's where I'm at now. I've sort of run out of interest in mixing, so now Simon, my bass player, does it because he's amazing at it.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Yeah. So now I just use it to make like convincing enough demos and to like engineer my own guitar recordings and other software stuff. But yeah, it's just a long trial and error process of trying to make sounds that work together.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense. Again, that sort of specialization and relying on other people's specialties to shore
Yeah.
up your own. That makes total sense. Okay, I've seen this question come up in the chat a bunch, and I ignored it at first, but I've had a lot of people asking, how do you title your songs?
It depends. Some of them Some of them are stupid. I mean, like Paper Moon is named after the cover of the previous EP because there's a moon on it that's made out of paper, um, which makes sense, I suppose. I've got a song called Heart that has like this ongoing sort of beating sound in it,
Hmm.
and that song's like 8 years old, and I didn't know until last year that I have a song called Heart that has a beating noise throughout it. So I managed to name that totally independently of the most obvious thing in it by accident. Um, Lately, I've just been saving like words and phrases that I come across that I like, and I'm gonna go and see if any of them seem to like resonate emotionally with the song.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of like prescribing meaning to it after the fact.
Yeah, that makes sense. I definitely have done that many, many times. Either that or I just name it after something that's in the room. I'm
That
like,
works. Yeah.
yeah, it's like strudel cookie, whatever. Um, so, Dia Abdeli asks, what stresses you out most in life? You seem very relaxed or sleepy most of the time.
Yeah, I'm a bit sleepy. Um, there's no good time for us really, and there's no even worse. There's no good time for like us and Europe. But I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Stress. I don't know. Not much. There's like I don't know. It doesn't seem to be much to get stressed about. Um, yeah. No, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the last thing that stressed me out.
Well, my addendum to that is like, so we met at the NAM show, and I've obviously followed like socials and stuff like that, and you do seem like a very relaxed person, somebody who really just doesn't you know take things like you take things seriously, but you don't stress about it. There's no worries about it. Is that something that you had to develop, or is that something that just kind of came naturally to you? Like, is there a process in your head where you're like, I don't have to think about this. I can leave that.
Um, there definitely is that process. I don't know that I mean, I developed it not necessarily out of necessity, but just as like oh, life's easier when you think about things this way. Um, it's probably something that I got better at during studying architecture because that was a very like, well, for a lot of people, is like an intense late night, stressful. I mean, that's probably every degree. A lot of pressure, like you work on something for months and then you're finishing it at 3 a.m. the night before you have to present it. And then you're like standing there looking like shit, presenting your like months of work to usually people like we get people coming in from architecture firms and stuff that we sort of looked up to, like local heroes. So you're presenting your thing, and then this person that you look up to, like, just sees every single flaw and points them out. Um, so I guess like going through that process helped with not really being offended by anything that other people can say. Um, Not really getting stressed by like time limits and lack of adhering to them. Like I produced some embarrassing things for sure, where it's clearly like, yeah, I started this 5 minutes ago, and you can tell, and there's no point in being like upset about it because I brought this on myself. Um, yeah, those sorts of things. And then I guess because I've always done music for fun and I've never really gotten involved in like the industry, um, that's kind of fun and funny. I find most of the things that people take seriously quite funny. Like, oh, if you don't get this record deal, like your life's over. Like all the drama around milestones and all that sort of thing, I just find funny.
Hmm.
And that's, yeah,
Don't take things too seriously. Do something that you love
yeah, with friends.
with friends. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see. Patrick Henderson asks, "What's the inspiration behind Selenium Forest?"
Um, Played some chords. Yeah, I don't know. Like there's like a couple of minutes in the beginning of the song that's basically just like an excuse to play guitar solos. And then the song starts with like a 7/8 arpeggio guitar thing. Um, so I guess I came up with those chords, and at the time I probably hadn't done much like that. Like those chord shapes were all things that were new and exciting to me. And then a lot of the rest of the song is just playing around with like different riffs that could be put on top of those chords.
Sounds about right. Michael Shiplet asks, "What's your most memorable stage performance and what makes it so memorable?"
A recent one was in Nijmegen in the Netherlands. We were touring with Periphery, and Jakob was playing guitar with me. And I think having him in the band, just because it's like, it's only every now and then that we do it. So there's like an extra layer of excitement because he's basically hanging out with someone you never see.
Hmm.
Um, so it was a fun show, like just from that. But then for some reason we were playing really well. Like I wasn't really paying attention to playing guitar, but it was all coming out really well.
Hmm.
Um, and then someone threw a packet of Stroop waffles. They're this like Dutch treat, um, basically like a biscuit with caramel in it. Um,
Sounds
I can't,
amazing.
yeah, I can't remember exactly what happened, but it ended up with Simon, I think, and he opened the packet. This is while I was like playing a solo or something, and fed one to Chris, our drummer. And like I didn't know because I was standing at the front of the stage, like pouring my heart out, but the whole crowd was like looking at something going on there. And then I went over and like Simon fed me one and then like passed one to Jakob. So we're like on stage playing tighter than ever and eating, and everyone was laughing. It was just a very wholesome, good time.
That sounds
Um,
wonderful.
yeah, that was fun.
Oh, interesting. Audio science record. I think I probably already know the question, the answer to this, but when writing, do you use odd time signatures on purpose, or does the piece decide that for you?
You think you know the answer?
I think I do.
What's the answer?
I imagine that the piece decides it for you. I think it's when you tap into the groove of the piece, it doesn't matter what the time signature is, as long as it grooves. That's it.
Congratulations, you're upgraded to yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's. I think people who haven't listened to much odd time signature music yet tend to hear that as like the one really different thing in the music. Just like people who haven't listened to opera before and only listen to metal would hear opera vocals and be like, what the fuck? That is so different. Um, but you just listen to it more and more and you get more comfortable with it. And it's, if you find yourself in an odd time, it's not really that much different from finding yourself
Hmm. Hmm.
with distortion or any other sort of like technique.
For sure, for sure. All right, so we're coming up on an hour. Actually, we just passed an hour, so let's go ahead and put a call in for last questions because I want to be respectful of your time, and I have dinner dinner plans waiting for me on the other side of this next
That's
couple of
exciting.
minutes. So let's see. A buddy of mine, Enrico Rotolo, is asking, "What's your favorite non-Plini sim from Neural DSP?"
Ooh. I like the Abasi one. I'm jealous of the blend thing because that I should have thought of that and done it myself. Um, I genuinely love mine so much more than any of the others, which you would hope would be the case, and
Absolutely,
is.
it's your sound.
Yeah. Um, the Corey One one's sick just because of all the like fun features that the others don't have.
Let's
The
see.
blend thing though, that's like it's annoying how much I want that.
Maybe try and get Neural to do an update on yours.
This time with other people's features that I was jealous of.
Yep, yep. So okay, that's actually a good question to sort of end on because let's see. Well, okay, no, no, actually this one's good. How did you balance writing music and working part time back when you started out?
Um, I didn't write that much music, I guess, so there wasn't much balance. It took years to write 40 minutes of music. But I just did it as a hobby. So I was like, work exists in the time that work exists, and then when I get home, I can make music. And I guess compartmentalizing work so that I wouldn't care about it outside being there
Hmm.
was helpful for that. But yeah, just bits
Cool.
and pieces.
Caston Frog asks, would you consider yourself an entrepreneurial musician? Why or why not?
I don't know. What is entrepreneur like a compliment now, or has it been ruined?
I mean, I don't know. I have sort of mixed feelings about entrepreneur. I take entrepreneur as somebody who is just trying to promote their own business in a way, but like, yeah, I don't necessarily see it as a positive or negative. It just depends on how it's used to me. But uh, he adds, I could use the answer for my bachelor's thesis, so no pressure in answering that.
Well, shit. I don't know. I think that I'm trying to do the things that I like while avoiding the traditional framework of the music industry as much as possible. Um, because I think it's mostly outdated and probably has not much to do with being creative, which is what I think music is about. Um, and obviously, living in society, you need money. So trying to like tie together avoiding the industry and being creative with making a living. I don't know if that's considered entrepreneurial, then sure.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great answer. I think that your motivations for what you do matter so much. Like whether you want to create music or you want to create art, like why you do that is central to, I feel, whether you can succeed or not. Um, your guiding principle, as it were. But let's see. Okay, so let's. I'll go ahead and end on this one. I think that this is a good question, and I like getting this answer from people who basically have their own successful guitar career, music career, teaching career. What do you recommend to somebody who is starting out a guitar career now? Do you think that you have any tips or specific mindset ideas that would help somebody in the current situation who wants to do something similar to what you're doing?
I guess to figure out what your actual goals are, because I think having a music career is a really ambiguous thing because I think if it's intentional, you're going to have to focus on either music or a career in terms of a business. Um, so I definitely don't have any business advice for making music. Um, but I guess if your goal is to make interesting new music, um, then I suppose try to keep that goal as sort of intact as possible the entire time. Like even if you think, oh, maybe I'd be more popular if I played 5 BPM faster or something like that. If that isn't doing something towards your actual goal of making interesting music, then I'd say that would be like the most important thing. Um, and then once you're working on that, I guess do your best to figure out everything that's working business wise with music these days, like make videos for Instagram and YouTube and try to get an endorsement with Neural DSP because they'll repost your video. Um, yeah, I think it's if you can get yourself to a place where making music that you think is interesting brings you like happiness and fulfillment, then that makes it sort of foolproof because then even if you never get fans, you'll still be happy. Um, and then you can figure out how to get fans from there, and it's kind of like a bonus. But on the other hand, if you want to make a career out of something to do with music, then I guess you'd have to look at like what pays the best and then get really good at that. And that could be like, no, I don't know, maybe something that you do, like being all rounded and up to date with everything. I don't know, like how did you end up doing this?
Um, so I mean, I guess I had started pursuing audio just before the shop that I worked at closed. I think it was like maybe 6 months, 5 months, maybe before the shop closed. I had no idea that the shop was closing at the time, but I decided that, you know, I was pursuing injury due to an injury that kept me from playing guitar. So I was like keeping myself busy. Once I got into it, I really found that I enjoyed it a lot. Um, Heard the shop was closing, decided to just jump into it full time, and I got to where I'm at now because I I met the right people, I took advantage of the right opportunities, and proved my value to the people around me um, by helping as many people out as I possibly could. I mean, I collaborate with people that I like and make good products, and I try to always make sure that anything I do or say has a sort of stamp of approval, um, that it's truth. I think that you know what I mean. Like anything that I say or do has weight to it, and I need to be sure that that's always true. But anyway, I ended up getting this position because I applied for it, and the I remember the day that I was on Facebook and somebody actually just tagged me in the post that Neural DSP had put up on the Facebook group. They were like, "Hey, we're looking at content creators," and one of my friends was like, "Dude, you need to try out for this." So I spent a day, like a full day. I wrote a song, I recorded it, mixed it, mastered it in a day, did a video, and edited it all. Like it was like a Saturday. I just took the whole
Oh,
day just to be like, okay, this is my application. I'm getting this in. I'm doing it, like, because I wanted to prove that I could bring value to what they had to offer. So yeah.
yeah, and I guess just jumping at opportunities, even when it takes something like that, like doing the whole thing in a day, or like saying yes to something you don't know much about and then learning the rest about it, like in the time that you have. I think that's something that's super, I guess, helpful to the point of being necessary. Because I guess, yeah, that's where most of my sort of career growth has come from, is just saying yes to stuff
Hmm.
um, that at the time mostly made no sense financially. It's like, hey, do you want to go play in this place and lose thousands and thousands of dollars and play music for half an hour?
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, yes, I do. Um, so yeah, set goals and nurture them as honestly as you can.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's a good note to end on. So yeah, we'll go ahead and call that a day. I apologize to all the people in the chat who have been asking the questions over and over again. I'm having to try and read all of them at once. So if your question didn't get answered, I apologize. I'm sure we'll figure it out. Oh, one last one. Alejandro Salinas asks, "Why you so handsome?"
Walking, so much walking. I don't,
Perfect answer. Awesome. Thank you all so much for hanging out on this Q&A. This was beautiful. Pliny, thank you so much for hanging out, answering the questions, having some great conversation.
thanks, man. Take care.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we will catch you all on the next one. Later.